The sky above Naraya Prime was not supposed to look like that. Most days the colony lived under a soft purple haze, a glow from the gas giant that the planet orbited. Children would point at the streaks of color in the atmosphere and laugh, pretending it was paint spilled by some careless god. Farmers worked their fields, medics ran their clinics, teachers filled their classrooms. Naraya Prime was not a fortress world. It was not a staging ground for war. It was neutral, protected under the Galactic Accord. That word neutral was what had given families the courage to settle there in the first place. But on this day, the sky shimmered with a silence that was wrong. Old veterans, the kind who once fought in Earth's border wars, used to say that. Silence had a taste bitter, like metal in your mouth. Jules Wren tasted it as he walked home from the small school where he taught history. Yes. His boots crunched against the gravel path between fields of tall grain, but the sound was swallowed. By the quiet, the animals had gone still. No birds rose from the tree lines. No winds rustled through the crops. It was as if the entire world was holding its breath. And then the shadows fell, high above the colony. Vair Dominion warships pierced the purple haze like silver knives. They came without warning, without declaration, without even the pretense of diplomacy. Massive holes, shaped like jagged blades, cut through the atmosphere. Their engines leaving trails of smoke and fire. There were no warning sirens. The colony had no defense grid, no fighter wings. They were farmers, doctors, engineers, teachers. Their only shield was the promise of peace treaties written light years away. That promise died the moment the first warship opened fire. The ground shook as burning plasma rained down. Homes exploded into ash. The school Jules had left minutes ago became nothing but a pillar of flame. He stumbled backward, shielding his face as the heat seared the air. He could hear faint screams, quickly drowned by the roar of collapsing buildings. But it wasn't chaos. Not yet. It was too fast for chaos. People didn't even get the chance to scream before fire swallowed them whole. Jules turned and ran. His lungs burned as he sprinted down the dirt path, his mind a blur of panic and disbelief. He wasn't a soldier, wasn't trained for this. He was just a man who taught children about Earth's history. He didn't even own a weapon. But his legs carried him forward, because he knew if he stopped, he died. A streak of white-hot energy tore open the fields ahead of him. The shockwave flung him into the dirt. When he lifted his head, ears ringing, he saw them. The Vair soldiers. 8 feet tall, armored from head to toe, with jagged helmets and glowing spear-like weapons. They moved with a terrifying calm, methodical, like hunters clearing out pests. Jules pressed himself into the ground, dirt caked across his face as the soldiers advanced. One of them raised its spear. A bolt of light struck a fleeing farmer. In the back, the man's body convulsed, glowing through his chest before collapsing into silence. The soldiers didn't even look at him again. Jules bit down on his hand to keep from making a sound. His heart pounded so hard he thought they'd hear it. This was supposed to be a safe world. The words kept echoing in his head, louder than the plasma fire, louder than the explosions. Then he heard another sound, soft, trembling, a child's sob. Jules turned his head and his blood froze. Just a few meters away, hiding behind the wreck of a transport cart, was Leora, one of his students. She couldn't have been more than 9 years old. Her face was streaked with tears, her small hands clutched around a broken doll. She was staring straight at the armored soldiers, too terrified to move. One of the Vair turned its helmet. Jules moved before he thought. His body launched from the dirt, sprinting toward her. He didn't feel the rocks cutting into his knees, didn't hear the shouts. He only knew that if he didn't move, she would die. He grabbed her and rolled just as a spear of light scorched the ground where she had been standing. Heat seared across his back. Leora screamed. Jules clamped a hand over her mouth and dragged her into the shadows of a half-collapsed barn. The soldiers marched past, scanning with cold, mechanical precision. Jules held Leora against his chest, whispering, "Don't move, don't breathe." For a long, endless moment, he thought they would be found. One of the soldiers paused, head tilting, scanning the barn's darkness. Jules held his breath until his vision blurred. Then, finally, the alien turned and continued its march silence again. Silence more terrifying than noise. When the patrol vanished, Jules staggered to his feet. His arms shook as he pulled Leora along. She clung to him, whispering, "Why are they doing this? We're not soldiers." He didn't have an answer, but he knew one thing: the beacon. Every colony had one an emergency distress relay hidden deep underground, meant only for the unthinkable. No one believed it would ever be needed. Jules wasn't even sure if it worked, but it was the only hope left. If the beacon fired, the signal would reach Luna Command, and if Earth heard, maybe Earth would come. They weren't the only survivors moving through the ruins. As Jules dragged Leora toward the underground tunnels, he passed others' faces he knew. Mara, the medic. Errol, the farmer. Families stumbling through smoke, clutching children and scraps of belongings. All of them were running, but there was nowhere to run. The Dominion soldiers were everywhere, patrolling the streets, executing anyone they caught. At one crossroad, Jules saw Errol try to fight. The farmer held nothing but a heavy tool, swinging it wildly at a soldier. The alien didn't even hesitate. A spear of light pierced straight through him. Jules pulled Leora into the shadows, covering her eyes, but he couldn't cover his own. He watched Errol collapse, smoke rising from his chest. The smell of burning flesh filled his lungs. He almost vomited, but Leora's trembling hand in his kept him moving. Every step was a battle. Every corner could have been the last. The tunnels weren't far, but with soldiers patrolling, the distance felt endless. Finally, they reached the old water tower rusted structure built above the hatch that led down to the relay station. Jules forced the hatch open, shoving Leora inside first. He climbed down after her, the iron ladder cold against his blistered hands. The air underground was damp and heavy. The walls echoed with faint sobs from other survivors who had made it down. The beacon sat at the far end of the chamber, a massive console, old and dusty, covered in warning labels. It required a blood key, a palm pressed against the scanner. Jules staggered forward. His hands shook so badly he almost missed the pad. Behind him, someone screamed. He turned just in time to see soldiers forcing their way down the ladder. Blaster. Fire filled the tunnel. People scattered, running deeper into the dark. A woman fell as a bolt caught her in the back. The air reeked of ozone and fear. Jules pressed his hand against the pad. Nothing happened. The console flickered, error lights flashing. "Come on," he whispered, slamming his palm again. Blood from his cuts smeared across the scanner. Still nothing. The soldiers were coming closer. He could hear their heavy boots pounding against the metal. Leora clutched his arm, sobbing. "Please, Mr. Wren." He slammed his hand again, harder, harder, until the bones in his wrists screamed with pain. And then the console lit up. A deep hum shook the chamber. The beacon roared to life, a column of light blasting upward through the tunnel, piercing the atmosphere, breaking through the silent sky. The soldiers froze, momentarily blinded by the sudden brilliance.
Ow.
Survivors cried out not in fear, but in hope. The signal was away. Far above, through satellites and relays, the transmission screamed across the void. It reached the Lunar Command Hub in just 13 minutes. Inside the war room of Earth's fleet, tired officers stared in silence at the footage. The flames, the executions, the terrified faces of children, and Admiral Reyna Solis, her voice cold as steel, gave the only order that mattered: mobilize the 7th Armada. We burn them. The beacon chamber shook as another explosion rocked the colony above. Jules collapsed to his knees, breath ragged, arms around Leora. He didn't know if they would live to see rescue. He didn't know if Earth's fleets were already moving, but for the first time since the sky went silent, he allowed himself to believe Earth had heard. Earth never forgot. The beacon's light cut across the void like a blade, from the ruined soil of Naraya Prime. The signal leapt from relay to relay, bouncing across the stars with desperate urgency. It wasn't just data, it was a scream. Images of burning homes, executions in the streets, and children dragged away were compressed into a single package and hurled toward Earth. 13 minutes later, the transmission hit Luna Command, Earth's central hub orbiting above the moon inside the fortress station. The war room hummed with the sound of machines and the quiet breathing of officers who had not seen true war in decades. They had been raised in peace, trained for defense, not vengeance. And yet, when the beacon flickered onto the central screen, every sound in the chamber died. The first image was of fire. The second, of children's bodies lying in the dirt. The third, of their soldiers spearing civilians through the chest. No. One spoke at the center of the war room. Admiral Reina Solis stood with her hands behind her back. She had not slept in 40 hours, her uniform rumpled, her eyes dark with exhaustion. She had seen border skirmishes, pirate raids, and territorial disputes, but never this. The officers around her waited for her words. They expected hesitation, diplomacy, a call to the council. But Solis's voice cut through the silence like steel drawn from its scabbard. Mobilize the 7th Armada. A young officer blinked, uncertain. Admiral. The council hasn't authorized. Solis turned her gaze on him, sharp and unflinching. The council can debate while we bury our dead, said Mobilize. Now, the war room exploded into movement. Orders flashed across screens, sirens wailed. Across Earth's orbit, stations lit up, awakening fleets that had not flown in full. Formation for decades. The 7th Armada was more than ships it was. Earth's promise that they would never be helpless again. Born from the ashes of the solar wars, its dreadnoughts were old, scarred veterans of past conflicts, now retrofitted with new weapons. Carriers, frigates, drone swarms, all built not for conquest, but survival. And yet, when they awoke this time, there was no talk of survival. It was only vengeance. In the hangar of the massive flagship U.S. Hellstorm, soldiers scrambled into X-armor. Engineers checked railguns. Drone pilots calibrated swarms. The air shook with the roar of engines powering to life. Captain Arlen Drax tightened the last seal on his gauntlet, the hiss of compressed air filling his ears. His squad, the Hellheimer, stood ready behind him, armored in black, plating that gleamed with hidden weapons. They were Earth's knife in the dark, the unit sent in when no mercy was required. But even they felt the weight of what was coming. Drax looked at their faces, some human, some synthetic, some hybrids. From Earth's colonies, fear flickered in a few eyes. Others looked cold, almost eager. He stepped forward. His boots struck the deck with sharp finality. "Listen up," he said, his voice low and hard. "This ain't a clean-up. We're not rescuing hostages. We're not protecting outposts. We're answering." He let that word hang in the air. Heavy as stone, they targeted civilians, families, children. They wanted to make a point. Now we make one back 10 times louder. Our orders are simple. Drop in, burn their forward bases. Race them. Leave nothing that breathes. His words struck like fire. A growl of approval rose from the squad, then a roar that shook the hangar. Drax raised his hand, silencing them. Remember this. The galaxy thinks Earth went soft. They think we forgot what war is. They're wrong. We're going to remind them. And when the smoke clears, they'll know one thing. He paused, eyes scanning his soldiers. No one touches Earth.
Ow.
The roar that followed could have cracked metal. Across the galaxy, news traveled faster than fleets. Stations and council chambers all received the same whispered reports. Earth is moving. Earth is waking its fleets. For generations, humans had been seen as dangerous, but restrained. A species of Deathworld survivors who had chosen peace, who had hidden their claws. Now the galaxy watched as those claws sharpened. Again, on Ver Dominion worlds, Commander scoffed. They had crushed empires before, enslaved species without hesitation. To them, humans were just another nuisance, another race to remind of their place.
Oh.
But in the dark corners of their minds, unease stirred, because the footage from Naraya Prime was spreading. And in it, one truth was clear. Earth would not forgive. Back on Luna Command, Sola stood alone in the observation chamber, staring out at Earth. The planet hung below, a swirl of blue and green, fragile and beautiful. She clenched her fists. Behind her back, her adjutant, Commander Vera Lynn, stepped into the chamber. "Admiral, the Council is furious. They want you to delay until votes are cast." Solas didn't turn. "Did they see the footage?" "They did, and they want to wait?" "Yes, ma'am." Fina Solas looked at her, eyes cold as steel. "Tell them this. Children don't wait. They burn in seconds. And I won't let Earth watch another one burn while the Council argues." "Over procedure?" Vera hesitated. "And if they strip you of command?" Solas turned back to the stars. "Then I'll go down in history as the admiral who lit the fire." The chamber went silent. The 7th Armada assembled. Dreadnoughts drifted into formation, their massive hulls bristling with cannons. Carriers deployed their swarms, wings of drones moving like living clouds. The Hellstorm led the vanguard, its engines glowing like molten suns. Captain Drax stood at the edge of the drop bay, visor lowered, his reflection shining back at him in the polished steel. He thought of the images from Naraya Prime fields burning, children cut down, survivors hunted like animals. His jaw tightened. He wasn't fighting for politics. He wasn't fighting for medals. He was fighting because something inside him broke the moment he saw those images. "Drop bay clear," the pilot's voice barked over comms. "All units, prepare descent." Clamps released. The dropship shuddered as they were pulled into the void, and for the first time in decades, Earth's Armada left its orbit not as guardians but as executioners, far away. In the glittering halls of the Galactic Council, ambassadors whispered in fear. Some called Earth reckless, others called them saviors. But one truth spread across the chamber like wildfire. Humanity is on the move. And when humanity moved, the galaxy trembled. The 7th Armada's first target lay ahead, Zera 4. A volcanic moon used by the Ver as an ore processing and military outpost. It was not heavily populated, but intelligence confirmed the same ships that had burned Naraya Prime were stationed there. If Earth's message was to be delivered, it would be written in fire on Zaira's black stone surface, as the fleet. Prepared for warp, Solas stood at the command deck, her voice steady. "Transmit to all ships. This is not conquest. This is not diplomacy. This is vengeance. For every child lost, for every family erased, we strike back. And we do not stop until the Dominion understands what it means to provoke Earth." A quiet fell across the fleet. Thousands of voices hearing her words at once. Then, as if the stars themselves answered, engines roared. The 7th Armada leapt into the void. On Naraya Prime, buried deep in the ruins of the underground relay, Jules Wren held Leora against his chest. The beacon chamber still shook from aftershocks, dust falling from the ceiling. He didn't know what the signal had done. He didn't know if anyone had heard. But as he closed his eyes, he whispered a prayer not for himself, but for the child in his arms, far above, in the endless dark. His prayer was already answered, Earth had heard. And Earth was coming with fire. The void burned red as Earth's Armada emerged from warp, Sayura. 4 hung below them, a volcanic moon alive with rivers of molten fire, black mountains split by glowing cracks. Industrial towers rose like jagged spears, belching smoke into the thin atmosphere. Plasma cannons guarded the compound, their barrels glowing with dormant power. Beneath them, Ver soldiers moved in precision lines, armored and ready, but they weren't ready for what was coming. Inside the drop bays of the flagship UES Hellstorm, hundreds of Earth's soldiers waited in silence. Engines roared. Armor hissed. Weapons locked. The air carried a metallic tang. The taste of fear sharpened into fury. Captain Arlen Drax stood at the head of the Hellheimer unit. Visor lowered, X-armor gleaming black under the crimson emergency lights. His voice cut through the hum like a blade. "Listen up," he said. "This isn't a war zone. This is payback. You all saw what they did to Naraya Prime. You saw the children. You saw the fires. Today we answer, today they learn what happens when you touch Earth." His words settled into their bones. The soldiers behind him didn't cheer. They didn't need to. Their silence was heavier than any roar. The dropship shook violently as it plunged through Zyra's thin atmosphere. Flames licked across the windows, painting the interior orange. Some rookies clutched their weapons tighter, knuckles white. Others whispered silent prayers. Drax didn't move. He stood in the center of the cabin, one hand gripping the rail, eyes fixed forward. He had dropped into war zones, before jungles, deserts, cities burning. But this wasn't just another battlefield. This was the message, the pilot's voice. Crackled over, comes 2 minutes to contact. Brace for turbulence. The ship jolted as flak lit up the sky. Explosions burst in the distance, streaks of plasma tearing through the black clouds. Outside, Earth's drones darted between enemy fire, detonating cannons before they could charge. The battle was already beginning in the air. A rookie across from Drax flinched as a near hit rattled the dropship. His visor reflected the fire. Outside, his lips trembling, Drax's voice cut through the panic. Breathe. Fear keeps you alive. But don't let it control you. You control it. The rookie nodded quickly, gripping his rifle tighter. The turbulence worsened. Metal screeched. Someone vomited in the corner. The pilot shouted, 1 minute. Drax lowered his visor fully, the HUD lighting up across his vision. Target markers glowed red. Enemy patrols, cannons, defensive lines, all mapped, all waiting. This was no rescue. No negotiation. This was eradication. The dropship slammed into the ground with a bone-jarring impact. The ramp blew open. Heat and smoke rushed inside. Drax raised his hand. Go. The Hellhammers surged forward. The ground was alive. Lava. Rivers glowed beneath. Fractured rock. Steam hissed from deep fissures. The compound loomed ahead, black towers bristling with alien steel. The first explosion lit up the southern gate. A railgun round from orbit smashed into the defenses, sending shards of molten metal into the air. The gates collapsed. Drax and his soldiers stormed through the breach. Exosuits powered their movements, each step faster, heavier, deadlier than any unaugmented human. Rail rifles spat, burning slugs that tore through armor. Drones zipped overhead, raining fire on entrenched positions. The Veer defenders scrambled. They had expected raiders, maybe small strikes, not the full fury of Earth's Armada. Their plasma fire rained down in chaotic bursts, but Earth's soldiers moved like a single organism, covering, advancing, killing. The first Veer warrior that charged Drax towered above him, serrated energy blade humming with power. The alien roared, swinging down to cleave him in half. Drax ducked low, moving with speed the giant hadn't expected. He drove his compressed core knife between the alien's ribs. The blade hissed, cutting through armor like butter. Black blood sprayed as the warrior collapsed. You picked the wrong species, Drax muttered. Pulling the blade free around him, the Hellhammers ripped through enemy lines. Grenades detonated inside bunkers. Tombs. Veer soldiers screamed, their arrogance vanishing as Earth's fury consumed them. The compound echoed with fire and screams. Every room cleared, every corridor swept, every tower reduced to rubble. The Veer tried to rally, but every attempt ended. In blood, some dropped their weapons, raising their hands in surrender. It didn't matter. Not after Naraya Prime. A Veer officer knelt in the dust, trembling armor cracked. His weapon lay discarded. He raised both arms high, begging in broken common tongue. No kill. No kill. Drax's rifle barked once. The alien's body fell backward, smoke curling from the wound. His squad didn't even flinch. They remembered the images. The children, the executions. There would be no prisoners here. Clear the sector, Drax ordered coldly. By the time the sun dipped below Zyra's horizon, the compound was nothing but a crater. Towers lay shattered, blackened wreckage glowing red with heat. The ground was littered with corpses. Earth had not just taken Zyra for. Earth had erased it. Drax stood at the edge of the crater, visor lifted, sweat streaking his scarred face. He stared down into the smoking ruins, chest heaving with exhaustion and fury. The cums crackled in his ear. Captain Drax, This is Admiral Solus, Zarya confirmed. You're greenlit for Phase 2? Drax didn't hesitate. Understood. Phase 2 commencing. Phase 2 was simple. Spread the fire. No outpost untouched, no fleet unbroken. No stronghold left standing. The galaxy would hear Earth's message, far away. On the crystalline world of Vera Prime, the Dominion's high command sat in uneasy silence. The walls of their chamber shimmered. With reflected light, as holofeeds played over and over, the destruction of Zyura 4, the ruins, the bodies, the silence. Lord Commander Xerxes' claws tapped against the obsidian table, each strike sharp with rage. They came like animals. No diplomacy, no warning, just slaughter. Across from him, Minister Dravara whispered coldly, "And what did we expect, Xerx? We slaughtered their children. They are only showing us what humanity has always been: brutal, emotional, effective." Another voice spoke from the shadows. The Overseer of Intelligence. Calm, steady, unnerving. "We underestimated them," she said. "Earth has been silent for 2 generations. Peaceful, quiet, but they never forgot war. They only waited for a reason. And we gave it to them." The chamber fell silent. In the Dominion's history, they had crushed empires, enslaved species, broken entire systems. But now, for the first time in centuries, they were afraid. Back on Naraya Prime. Jules Wren sat in the ruins of the underground relay station, holding young Leora against his chest. The walls still echoed with distant thunder. He didn't know. What was happening out there, beyond his shattered world? He didn't know if Earth had heard, if the signal had mattered. But when the beacon's console flickered again, projecting a faint encoded message, hope bloomed. The 7th Armada had struck. Zyura 4 was no more. Earth was not waiting. Earth was coming. Jules closed his eyes and let out a broken laugh. For the first time since the sky had gone silent, he believed Earth had begun answering. And its voice was fire. The great hall of Vera Prime looked like crystal grown into a palace. The floor was black glass. That showed every face like a mirror. It was designed to make visitors feel small. Today it made the Dominion feel smaller. The air was tense. Static ticked along the edges of the room. A low alarm pulsed like a heartbeat through the corridors. On every holopanel, the same footage played again and again: the fall of Zyura 4, the crater, the smoke, silence after Earth's assault. No one spoke at first. They only watched. Then Lord Commander Xerx slammed his clawed fist into the obsidian table. The shock ran through the hall like a wave. "They came to our moon," he said, voice raw with anger. "They burned our defenders. They left no survivors. This is not a raid. This is a hunt." Across from him, Minister Dravara lifted her eyes. She looked pale, tired, and old in the hard light. "We struck Naraya Prime," she said quietly. "We killed their children. Did this to ourselves." Xerxes' head snapped toward her. "We enforced dominance." Dravara did not raise her voice. "We made a mistake." A third voice entered, soft and smooth, from the shadows near the far wall. Dominance and a mistake. The humans were quiet for 2 generations, forgot what quiet can hide. On the holomap above the table, red Dominion sectors blinked in steady rhythm. Then new icons appeared. Blue marks, sharp and cold, spreading out like cracks across. Glassdot the Overseer lifted a single finger. "These are the 7th Armada's confirmed movements after Zyura 4. They split their force. They're striking fuel depots, relay stations, munitions ports, and listening posts. Notice the pattern. They do not hold ground. They do not plant flags. They strike, erase, and vanish." Xerxes' claws scratched the table. "Cowards." Dravara shook her head. "No. Professionals." The Overseer continued. "They transmit nothing except a single coded line before each attack." Xerx stared. "What line?" The Overseer tilted her head. Her voice stayed calm. "You do not touch Earth." Silence fell again. The hall's cold lights hummed. A door opened at the far end. A courier slid in, bowed so low his forehead touched. The floor, and lifted a trembling hand. "High Command," he whispered. "We have more. 2 more outposts in Sector 12 have gone dark. A convoy in Vector Darren has stopped responding." Xerxes did not sit. He paced like a caged predator. "Mobilize fleets," he snapped. "Call up the Iron Spine battle group. Send them to the trade routes. Deploy the Pillar Guard to the inner systems. We break these humans in the corridors between stars." Dravara's eyes remained on the blue marks. "And if we fail, then we strike their cradle," Xerxes growled. "We strike Luna. We strike Earth itself." Her shadow lay long across the glass. "If we strike Earth, the Council of Worlds will not protect us. We will appear as the monster in every story people tell their children at night. They will side with the humans. We'll send watchers, judges. War will pour in from every corner." Xerxes bared his teeth. "We are the Dominion. You do not beg. You do not listen," the overseer said. Their eyes locked and held. Neither blinked. From the wall, the footage ran once more. This time, the camera caught a close view capped. Erlen Drax driving a compressed core blade into a towering Dominion. "Warrior." The image froze on Drax's face as he pulled the blade free. It was not joy. It was not rage. It was something colder. Promise. The hall felt smaller again. Fear does not stay inside palaces. It walks outside and wears common clothes. On Vera Prime's lower levels, the market lanes ran beneath hanging wires and scent lamps. Merchant banners fluttered like small songs. For years, people had spoken. Softly there, careful about what names they used. That day, they spoke one name loudly and often. Human. News screens above the stalls showed burning towers and black smoke. The announcers used careful words, but the images did not. Shopkeepers turned down music to hear rumors. Earth took Zaira in hours. Earth split the moon's guard. Earth did not accept surrender. Mothers hurried children inside. Workers looked to the sky during lunch and did not taste their food. 2 Dominion soldiers walked the lane, trying to look calm. Their armor shone, and their hands stayed near their weapons. People watched them pass with quiet eyes and masks of normal life. After the soldiers turned the corner, the whisper came back like wind through reeds. Human. In deep space, far from any sun, a small black craft drifted beside a Dominion relay tower. The relay looked like a crown bent into thorns. It pulsed messages through the dark. The craft blinked once, twice, then slid forward like a shadow. Inside, Earth's cyber warfare team wore suits that looked like starless water. No names, no flags. Only the slow blue light of screens on their faces. "Lock their bands," the operator said softly. "Strip their encryption. Send a gift." A thin smile flickered. "What kind of gift?" another asked. The operator did. "Not look up. Truth." A message injected itself into Dominion channels. It was short. It was clear. It showed Naraya Prime. It showed Zaira. It showed a simple line of text in 8 languages. "We will not stop while your hands are red." The craft vanished back into the dark. On Aroth Station, a ring city of ice and light, the Council of Worlds met in a hall that smelled of old paper and new fear. Delegates sat in tiered arcs. Some wore white robes. Some wore polished stone. Some wore nothing but the silver of their skin. They argued in voices that tried to sound calm. "Human strikes exceed defensive scope," one delegate said. "Dominion." "Targeted civilians," another replied. "Humans answer in kind. Humans are a danger. Humans are a warning." Screens around the hall ran the same maps the Dominion watched. But the Council added numbers population counts, convoy routes, energy grids, refugee estimates. Arrows ran everywhere. Blue pushed red. Red pushed back in places where there were. No cameras. An old envoy from a small mining world spoke last. His voice shook. "My planet hid when the Dominion came," he said. "We paid tribute. We stayed alive. When I see human ships, I feel fear. I also feel something I forgot a long time ago." He took a breath. "I feel hope." The hall did not applaud. It only listened to itself breathing. On the command deck of the UES Hellstorm, Admiral Reynosola stood in a ring of holograms. Every ship's status blinked in clean rows. Every vector pulsed like a nerve. Her jaw was tight. Her eyes were steady. She did not drink. She did not sit. Report. Second carrier group has cut the JASC lines, Admiral. Fuel drought confirmed. In ARC sectors, drone swarms breached Relay K9. Munitions port at trail is burning. Minimal losses on our side. Civilian traffic. Mixed, ma'am. Dominion labels military labor as civilian support. Solus's gaze did not soften. If it feeds the blade, it is the blade. Commander Vera Lynn spoke from her right. We will face pressure from the Council. Pressure is not a weapon, Solus said. Children's graves are. Quiet fell. The command deck hummed. Split. Us again, Solus ordered. 3 spears. No rest longer than 6 hours. Do not hold ground. Do not answer their transmissions. Leave only one message. The comms officer nodded. One line. Admiral Solus did not blink. You do not touch Earth. In the troop bay of Dropship 7, Captain Arlen Drax checked each of his soldiers by name, rank, and eyes. He had stopped trusting calm voices. He trusted pupils and breath. Hoyt, he said. Green, green, Hoyt answered. He looked like a boulder with scars. His voice sounded like gravel. Santi. Green, she said. Her hands moved fast. She was always fixing something. Wex. Silence. Drax looked up. Wex stared back, visor open, mouth tight. Green, Wex said. It didn't sound true. Drax kept his voice even. You can say yellow, Wex swallowed. Yellow. Drax nodded once. Yellow is human. He moved on. The dropship shook as it docked to a sling under a stealth carrier. Through the small side window, Drax saw the glow of Trail's munitions towers. He smelled smoke that was not there yet. He thought of Naraya Prime. He thought of a small hand in a teacher's strong grip. He thought of the way his knife slid through armor on Zyra, and how easy it felt when it should not feel easy at all. Fear keeps you alive. He had told a rookie in the last descent. The words still echoed in his own skull. Captain. The pilot called back. 90 seconds. Stand, Drax ordered. The Hellhammers rose as one. He opened the squad channel. You saw the images. You heard the order. We shut this port. Every rack, every pipe. No survivors on the grid. If someone holds a bolt that touches a gun, they are the gun. Clear. Clear, the squad said. The ramp light changed from red to white. Go. The world became fire again, in the high chamber on Vera Prime. Arguments returned like storms that forget which mountains they already struck. This is your fault, Zerx hissed. You pushed for a soft response. You told us to stall. The Overseer's tone did not change. A soft response would have kept the Council silent. Your anger keeps their eyes on us. Drevara rubbed her temples. We can still sue for terms, she said. Offer apology. Offer compensation. Promise to withdraw from border systems. Show that we understand. Zerx laughed without joy. We do not kneel. We breathe. Drevara replied. Pride does not keep cities from burning. A young officer ran into the hall, words tumbling. Over themselves. High command. Trail has fallen. The port is gone. The JASC lines are cut. Sector 12 is divided in 2. Civilian transports are drifting. We do not have crews for rescue. Zerx snapped. Pull garrisons from Rhine and Serral. Send them to? No, the Overseer said softly. Zerx's head whipped around. No. If you pull from Rhine and Serral, you open the inner door. Her eyes looked like still water. You will invite Earth to our capital. They will come anyway, Zerx spat. Then stop giving them clean paths, the Overseer said. Break your own routes, burn your own bridges. Make our space ugly and slow. We are not trying to win this week. We are trying to still exist next month. Xerxes' chest rose and fell. Rage shook him like fever. At last, he said, I want a weapon they fear. The Overseer did not answer immediately. Then she said, there is a whisper of one. Looked up sharply. No. Zerx turned toward the shadowed woman. Yes. The Overseer's face did not move.
Not yet.
The three of them stood like statues carved from different wars, on a water world called Himmel. Fishermen tied boats in a quiet cove and listened to a small, illegal radio. Earth hit trail, the radio said. Earth spared 2 children and an old mechanic. The fishermen nodded at the last part. They did not talk, but their eyes softened. On a smog world called Kren, factory workers saw a different broadcast. Earth destroyed a civilian support center, the voice said. Carefully. The factory guards turned the volume down when workers stopped working. On a trade moon called Luth, merchants drank sweet liquors under orange lamps and made new deals in whispers. Shift routes, one said. Move shipments through neutral. Shells, another asked. What if Earth closes the shells? A third answered. Then nothing moves at all. On a tiny mining rock with no name worth saying, a young miner traced a word in dust on a bulkhead while his foreman slept. He did not write freedom. He did not write hope. He wrote Earth and put a line under it. Night fell on what was left of Naraya Prime, but on a ruined world, under a purple sky, night did not bring dark. Fire still burned. The ground still glowed in places where the Dominion's heat lances had cut the soil. In a shattered classroom with half a roof, Jules Wren washed soot from Leora's face with water from a cracked pipe. He moved slowly. He spoke softly. You're safe for now, he said. The words were not fully true yet. He said them anyway. Children need words. Other survivors sat in a ring around them, close together for warmth and courage. Someone had found a little battery radio and coaxed it back to life with wire and anger. It spat static for a long time. Then it did not. A voice came through the hiss. To the people of Naraya Prime, the speaker said. The voice was clear, calm, and human. This is Luna Command. Your signal reached us. We heard you. We have moved. We have struck. We will not stop. No one cheered. Some cried. His eyes and said nothing. His hands shook. He whispered to the floor, to the smoke, to the memory of a school with all its walls. They heard. Leora held his sleeve and leaned her head against his arm. She was very small. Her breathing slowed. The radio voice returned. If you can move, move to the southern shelters. If you cannot move, stay near heat. Mark your roofs with blue light if you have it. A hospital ship will attempt descent when skies are clear. Repeat, blue light. Jules looked up through the broken roof. The sky was not clear yet, but somewhere beyond the smoke, he knew ships were there. On the UES Hellstorm, Admiral Solas watched fresh intel burn across her screens. Admiral Dominion has begun redirecting civilian transports from Veracor worlds, a sensor officer reported. Manifests show mixed cargo. People and munitions. They're pushing both through the same lanes. Of course they are, Solas said. Commander Virulin lowered her voice. If we hit those lanes, the Council will call it a crime. Solas's eyes stayed hard. If those lanes feed guns, they are guns. Mark them. Prepare intercept vectors. A different officer looked up from his console. Ma'am. One convoy. Has children flagged on the manifest? Solas did not speak for a long beat. The deck seemed to hold its breath with her. Tag it, she said at last. Board first. Verify. If it is clean, we let it pass. If it is camouflage. Her jaw tightened. We do what we came to do. The officer swallowed and nodded. Saul turned away from the screens and looked out into the starfield as if it were an ocean too quiet to trust. Signal the fleet, she said. Tighten the net. Deep below the crystal towers of Vera Prime, in rooms without windows. The overseer stood beside a table of stone and glass. 2 agents waited across from her. They wore gray. They did not ask questions. Seed the rumor, she said. Which rumor, overseer? That Earth has a weapon we cannot face? Not a bomb? An idea? Her eyes were still. Tell the border. Worlds that the humans do not want thrones. They want monsters to kneel. Tell them the humans only leave behind hospitals and schools where they pass. The senior agent hesitated. Is that true? Does not matter, she said. Let fear do half our fighting for us. When the agents left, the overseer stood alone in the quiet and allowed herself one deep breath. "Hold," she whispered. Into the empty room. "Just hold." Back in the high hall, the map over the table shifted again. Fresh blue lines crossed red lanes in Vector Darren, the same lanes feeding Dominion strongholds and carrying refugees. A new icon flashed. At their intersection, it began to pulse. "What is that?" Zerk barked. The courier returned, breathless. "An Earth spearhead group, my lord. 2 dreadnoughts, 1 carrier, 1 stealth escort. They are accelerating toward convoy Thatnine." Dravara's head lifted sharply. "Thatnine carries civilians." The courier swallowed. "And shells," he said. "Unregistered crate. Stacks, likely munitions." Xerxes' lips pulled back from his teeth. "They will not fire on that convoy. They will not dare." The overseer's voice was very soft. "You do not understand them yet." Zerk spun on her. "And you do?" She said, "But I am learning to fear my own certainty." They stared at the bright pulse. It beat like a heart in the troop bay of Dropship 7. Captain Drax checked the final mag seals and looked at the new orders scrolling across his HUD. "Intercept. Thatnine. Board first. Verify. If combat cargo confirmed. Nitrogen Mercy." Drax exhaled. Once, it sounded like a door closing. "Straps," he said. Helmets down. The Hellhammers locked in. The bay lights swung from white to white again, like breath. It's somewhere in the ship. Someone whispered a prayer. Somewhere else, someone laughed like it hurt. The pilot's voice was a thin wire. In 30 seconds, Drax's visor lowered. His world became numbers and lines, and one memory he could not shut out: small hands. A teacher's voice, a purple sky with a promise that broke. He forced his jaw to relax. His hands did not shake. 10. He heard his own voice in his head. "Old and tired and still hard. We are not here to be liked. We are here to be understood." 5. He stood and raised his hand. "Go." The ramp dropped. The roar swallowed everything. The galaxy held its breath as Earth's spearhead cut through. Vector Darren like an arrow. The convoy ahead was a knot of ships, some crowded with families, some heavy with boxes that did not appear on any honest list. The Armada did not slow, and somewhere far below, on a ruined world where fires still burned, a little blue light flickered. Into life on a broken roofs, small, stubborn, bright. The void around Vector Darren was heavy with silence. Dozens of Dominion ships drifted in convoy formation, their engines glowing faintly against the stars. Some were cargo haulers, some were refugee liners, their hulls painted with civilian codes. Some were bulk freighters stacked with unmarked containers. To the outside eye, it was a mixed fleet. But Earth did not trust outside eyes anymore. On the bridge of the UES Hellstorm, Admiral Reyna Solas stood at the forward viewport, arms clasped behind her back. Her face was stone. Behind her, officers moved quickly, their voices low but sharp. "Convoy. Thatnine in range," a sensor officer reported. "Multiple transponder signals. Civilian tags mixed with military cargo. Scans confirm weapons-grade alloys inside several holds. At least 3 ships carry heavy plasma cores." Another officer added, "There are children aboard, Admiral. Families." The words hung in the air. For a long moment, the room went still. Then Sola spoke. Voice cold as iron. "Children burned on Naraya Prime. Families executed. Civilians erased. Did the Dominion spare them?" The officer's throat bobbed. "No, ma'am." "Then we return the lesson," Solas said. "Triple it." The order rippled across the fleet. Dropships armed. Drone swarms adjusted vectors. Dreadnought cannons began to glow with charged energy. Inside Dropship 7, Captain Arlen Drax listened as the mission data updated across his visor. His squad, the Hellhammers, sat strapped in, their black X-armor gleaming under red lights. The objective was blunt. Board. Verify. Erase. The rookie Wex broke the silence. "Sir, if they've got kids in there..." Drax turned his helmet toward him. His voice was flat. If those kids grow into soldiers who come to burn our colonies, whose fault is that? The squad stayed quiet. The dropship shuddered as it detached. The roar of engines filled the bay. Drax didn't speak again. He didn't need to. The soldiers already knew. There would be no mercy today. The dropship slammed into the side of a freighter with a metallic scream. Magnetic clamps sealed, and the cutting drill roared to life, punching through the hull. The door blew inward. Smoke and sparks filled the corridor. The Hellheimers surged inside, rifles up, drones buzzing over their shoulders. The first figure they saw was not a soldier. It was a woman clutching a child. Her eyes went wide at the sight of armored humans storming the passage. She opened her mouth to plead a rail slug punched through her chest. She dropped before the child even screamed. Drax stepped over her body without breaking stride. His voice was calm on comes. Room by room, leave nothing standing. The squad split into pairs, sweeping through the freighter. Dominion crew shouted, scrambled, raised weapons, begged. It didn't matter. Every corridor filled with gunfire, every wall spattered with alien blood, one by one. Compartments went silent. On the Hellstorm's bridge, Solas watched the battle unfold in real time across holoscreens. Explosions dotted the convoy as earths. Ships cut them apart. Some freighters erupted into fireballs. Others vented atmosphere as boarding crews tore through them. Commander Vera Lynn stood at her side, voice taut. "Admiral, the Council will see this. Refugees are dying alongside soldiers." "Good," Solas said. Her eyes didn't move from the burning ships. "Let them watch. Let them see what happens when you touch Earth. History will call." "Us monsters," Vera whispered. Solas turned, her gaze like ice. "History already did. We're just reminding them why." In the cargo hold of one freighter, Drax's squad cornered a group of Dominion civilians. Workers, engineers, mothers. A few children clutched their parents, wide-eyed with terror. The Hellhammers raised rifles. Drax lifted his hand, holding them still. For a long, tense moment, he looked at the faces in front of him. Remembered the girl from the tunnels on Naraya Prime, her voice trembling. "Please, my mom is hurt." His finger twitched on the trigger. He almost gave the order to fire, almost. Instead, he spoke into coms. "Mark this group. Pull them out. They're non-combatants." His second-in-command, Hoyt, growled. "Orders were clear, sir." "I gave mine," Drax said, voice hard. The civilians were dragged away, trembling, terrified but alive. A ripple of humanity and a tide of vengeance. The rest of the freighter did not share their fate. One by one, convoy Thatanine ships were torn apart. Some imploded under rail fire. Others exploded as plasma cores detonated inside. Escape pods tried to flee, but drones swarmed them like wasps, tearing them to shreds. From the outside, the convoy looked like a string of dying stars. Each light flickered, burned, and went dark. On Dominion channels, the panic spread like fire. Captains screamed for reinforcements. Families begged for mercy. Soldiers cursed Earth with their last breath, but Earth did not listen. When the guns finally fell silent, nothing remained but wreckage drifting through the void. The message was clear. Earth did not take prisoners. Earth did not negotiate. Earth answered with fire. On neutral worlds, the images spread faster than any fleet. Footage leaked of burning convoys, children's screams, wrecks littering the stars. Some called Earth a monster reborn. Others whispered, Earth was salvation, the only species that dared. Strike the Dominion without fear. On the Council of Worlds, delegates shouted over each other. Some demanded sanctions, others demanded alliance. One thing united them all: fear. Because the humans were no longer fighting for survival. They were fighting for retribution. And retribution had no leash. On Vera Prime, the High Command watched. The reports with grim faces. Lord Commander Xerx slammed his claws on the table. They slaughter convoys. They kill civilians. They are nothing but butchers. Dravara's voice was low. So were we at Naraya Prime. Xerxes' eyes burned. We must strike Earth itself. Break their capital. Show them pain. The overseer of intelligence shook her head. If we strike Earth, the Council will side with them completely. We are bleeding, Xerx. Every strike makes us weaker. We need time. We need. Her voice trailed. OFXERX leaned forward. We need what? The overseer's eyes gleamed in the dim light. We need the last whisper. Dravara's face went pale. No, that device was forbidden. It doesn't destroy cities. It destroys minds. If we unleash it, it will remind them what true fear is, Xerx growled. The overseer's smile was small and cold. And perhaps it will remind us too. Aboard the Hellstorm, Admiral Sola stood in the observation bay, staring at the wreckage of the convoy. Her officers moved quietly behind her, none daring to speak. Only Captain Drax approached, his armor scorched, his face shadowed. You ordered no survivors, he said flatly. I ordered justice, Solas replied. Justice doesn't look like this, Drax said. Solas turned to him, her eyes hard. Justice died on Naraya Prime. This is what came after. A long moment they stared at each other. Then Drax said quietly, Be careful, Admiral. Monsters don't care which side they start on. Solas didn't answer. She turned back to the stars. Outside, the wreckage of the convoy drifted, silent and endless. The galaxy was watching, and Earth no longer cared. The world of Varkos III burned, like a furnace. Once, it had been the Dominion's primary munitions depot. Its surface was black stone. Its skies thick with smoke from factories that built the plasma cannons and armor plates that fed the Dominion war machine. For years, Varkos III's assembly lines had poured out weapons that cut through weaker empires. Its towers had glowed with endless production. Now, they glowed with fire. Earth's 7th Armada had arrived at dawn. By dusk, nothing remained but rubble. Factories collapsed into pits. Fuel silos exploded into firestorms. Towers that once scraped the clouds now lay twisted and blackened on the ground. Captain Arlen Drax crouched behind the wreck of a Dominion. Hover tank, his armor scorched, his visor cracked. His chest heaved with every breath. Blood, hot and sticky, ran down his side where shrapnel had punched through. Smoke filled the air, stinging his throat. All around him, the battlefield lay silent except for the occasional pop of smoldering. Ammunition cooking off. The Hellhammers had one. But at a cost. Half his squad lay dead, their armor torn open, their bodies cooling in the dust. The rest were scattered through the ruins, dragging wounded, finishing off stragglers, setting demolition charges. Drax pressed a hand against his wound and growled into Cum's medic. Corporal Santi slid across the rubble to his side. Already, pulling out a cauterizer, her hands moved fast, her face set hard. You should be on evac, Captain. We hold position, Drax grunted. His voice was hoarse but steady. We wait for 9th Battalion to relieve. They're hours out, Santi hissed. You'll bleed out. They'll come, Drax said. We finish this. No half measures. Santi swore under her breath, then pressed the cauterizer against. His wound, the smell of burning flesh filled the air. Drax didn't flinch. Pain was nothing compared to what he had seen on Naraya Prime. He had learned to hate pain. Hate made pain quiet. The ruins of Varkos groaned in the wind. Then beneath, the silence, a sound at first Drax thought it was static on Cum's, faint buzz, low and trembling. But then it repeated, clearer this time, a voice, a child's voice. Is anyone there? Drax froze. He looked at Santi, who paused mid-motion, her eyes wide. The voice came again, breaking with fear. We're in the tunnels. My mom is hurt, please. Somebody, please. Santi's voice dropped to a whisper. We thought they evacuated this place. Drax's gut twisted. They didn't. Or they lied. He activated his helmet mic. His voice was low, careful. Identify yourself. Who are you? The reply came after a pause. I'm Sorrel. My mom worked the machines. They shot her. She's bleeding. Please help. Her voice cracked on the last word. Too young. Too raw. For a long second, Drax didn't speak. The rage that had carried him for weeks churned in his chest. He had orders. No survivors. Every Dominion. Life fed the machine. Every spared soul could rise as another soldier. But this wasn't a soldier. This wasn't a factory. This was a child. He closed his eyes, his jaw tightening. Finally, he whispered, I'm sending help. Santi's eyes widened. Sir, that's against Drax. Cut her off. We're not the Dominion. Not yet. Drax pulled 2 soldiers with him and marked the signal. They moved fast through the ruins, rifles raised, helmets sweeping for heat signatures. The ground still smoked, rubble crunching under their boots. Every corner carried risk. The Dominion was known for ambushes. A wounded civilian could be bait. A child's voice could be a trap. But still, Drax pushed forward. They reached a collapsed factory shaft. The entrance was buried in steel beams and stone. Beneath it, faint cries echoed. Santi scanned the rubble. They're under there. Clear. Drax ordered. The squad used exo-strength to heave aside beams, tearing away jagged metal until an opening gaped wide enough for a soldier to crawl through. The cries grew louder. Drax went first. Inside, the tunnel smelled of blood and oil. Flickering emergency lights cast long shadows. At the far end, he saw them. A Dominion woman slumped against the wall, her skin pale, shimmering faintly with her species-scaled texture. A wound smoked in her chest where plasma had burned through. Beside her knelt a small girl, Sorrel, her arms wrapped around her mother, her eyes wide with terror and exhaustion. When she saw Drax, she flinched, clutching. Tighter. He lowered his rifle slowly. His voice softened, though the growl never left. The girl's eyes darted between him and her mother. You killed everyone. Drax's chest tightened. Because they killed ours. He crouched low, extending one hand. But not you. Not today. Sorrel's mother coughed weakly, black blood spilling from her mouth. She whispered something in her own tongue. The girl shook her head, tears streaming. Help her, she begged. Santi slid forward with a medkit. She hesitated only once, then set to work. Field stabilize. We'll need evac. The woman's breathing steadied slightly, though her eyes fluttered with pain. Drax lifted Sorrel gently, setting her on his hip. She trembled in his arms, but didn't pull away. He looked back at the tunnel's opening, his voice hard. Mark them for evacuation. Priority. Hoyt's voice growled over, comes, Sir, command isn't going to like this. Drax's reply was low final. Command isn't here. Hours later, the survivors were lifted from the battlefield aboard a med transport. Drax stood at the hatch, watching it vanish into the sky. Around him, soldiers murmured. Some approved quietly, others whispered of weakness. Orders had been clear, no survivors. Yet their captain had spared not only a child, but her Dominion mother. Back on the Hellstorm, Admiral Solas received the report. Her jaw clenched as she read. When Drax entered her chamber, she didn't stand. She didn't look at him at first. You disobeyed, she said coldly. I remembered, Drax answered. Her eyes snapped to his. Remembered what? Means to be human. For a long time the room was silent, but for the hum of vengeance. Solas's face was unreadable. Finally she said, You've made a dangerous choice, Captain. Drax didn't flinch. So did you when you lit this war. The tension cracked between them like lightning. But Solas didn't dismiss him. Not yet. Word of the event spread quietly through the ranks. Some soldiers whispered it was weakness. Others whispered it was proof Earth still carried something the Dominion never had. Restraint on neutral worlds. Small reports leaked. Earth spares children. Earth saves the wounded. Among species long crushed under Dominion rule, whispers of hope began to mix with the fear, even inside the Dominion itself. The overseer of intelligence studied the reports with narrowed eyes. Mercy? she said softly. Their curse. Or their sharpest blade. That night, alone in his quarters, Drax sat in silence. His armor lay on the rack, scorched and bloodied. His hands trembled as he cleaned his knife. He saw Serail's eyes every time he closed his own. He remembered how close he had been to pulling the trigger. He wondered what that said about him. About Earth, when the CUM unit blinked, he ignored it at first. But the message that scrolled across his screen froze him. Phase 2 complete. Phase 3 authorized. No survivors. Drax set the knife down. His jaw tightened. Because now he knew. The truth. The war wasn't just breaking the Dominion. It was breaking Earth, and he didn't know if anyone could stop it. The Dominion was bleeding. World after world, outposts and depots had fallen into silence. Convoys were gone. Garrisons destroyed. Even their proud fleet's iron walls of 1,000 years were being cut apart like prey before wolves. But in the core chambers of Vera Prime were not yet finished. In a room buried beneath crystal towers, a weapon waited. It was not new. It was old. Hidden, forbidden even by the Dominion's own codes. It sat at the center of a chamber, lined with obsidian, humming softly, its violet core pulsing like a heartbeat. They called it the Last Whisper. It was not designed to destroy cities. It was not designed to crack planets. It was designed for something. Worse, it killed thought. It erased minds. One pulse from its heart could sweep across an entire world, burning consciousness to ash and leaving only empty shells behind. Bodies would stand. Structures would remain. But every living mind would be gone. It's like voices snuffed out mid-sentence. Lord Commander Zerk stood before it now, his claws flexing, his voice trembling not with fear, but with fury. They have humiliated us, he growled. They erased Zaira. They slaughtered our convoys. They marched through our sectors as if they owned the stars. We will not bow. If Earth presses into our heart, we will unleash the whisper. Minister Dravara stepped forward. Her eyes haunted. If you use it, there will be nothing left to rule. Not soldiers, not workers, not families, only corpses that walk without thought. Zerx's head snapped toward her. Better to vanish than bow, the overseer of intelligence, silent until now, drifted into the light. Her shadow stretched. Long across the chamber floor? Then we must be ready. Because Earth is coming, and they are closer than you think. On the UEES Hellstorm, Admiral Reyna Sola stood rigid on the command deck, her eyes locked on the glowing tactical map. Blue lines spread deeper into Dominion space, closing around the red core like claws. But one flashing transmission drew her gaze most. Admiral, the CUM's officer said, we've intercepted a high-level Dominion message, encrypted, took hours to crack. Play it, Solas ordered. The room went still. The voice was Dominion, hissing and sharp. If they breach the core, we deploy the Last Whisper. Coordinates locked. Southern Pole facility, no surrender. The deck fell silent. No one breathed. Solas's jaw tightened. Explain. The analyst's voice shook. The Last Whisper. Admiral, it's not a weapon we've cataloged. It wipes consciousness. Full mind erasure. Not bombs, not fire. The thought itself gone. A low murmur ran through the crew. Even hardened veterans shifted uncomfortably. Solas's face remained cold. If it exists, we find it. We neutralize it, or none of this war matters. Her gaze fell to one man at the edge of the deck, Captain Arlen Drax. His armor still carried the scars of Varkos, its eyes shadowed with memory. You've been inside their walls, Sola said. You've seen their tactics. I need you for this. Assemble a strike team. We're going in. Drax didn't hesitate. Yes, Admiral. The stealth pod cut through Vera Prime's atmosphere like a shadow. Its hull swallowed light, its engines muffled, its signature masked. Inside, the strike team of 6 sat in silence, weapons strapped tight, armor black as the void. Drax sat at the front, his helmet lowered, HUD glowing faint across his visor. He checked every weapon twice, then checked again. The others followed. His lead, no one speaking, the silence heavy. The pod shuddered as it pierced the lower atmosphere. The pilot's voice came over comes. Approach vector locked. Southern Pole. Old prison complex. You'll have 20 minutes before patrols converge. The pod slammed down, hatches blowing open. Heat and steam rushed in, the air stinking of old blood and chemical waste. The ground was jagged ice, split by black cracks. Towers of rusted steel clawed at the sky. This was not a fortress. This was a grave. Drax's voice cut through the coms. Move. The squad poured out, rifles up, drones buzzing overhead. They moved fast, silent, shadows sliding between ruins. Every step carried them closer to the southern pole, and to the weapon that could end them all. The prison complex loomed like a scar. Its walls collapsed, its gates twisted. Led the squad through the broken halls, their boots crunching over bones left from 1,000 forgotten executions. Finally, they reached it. The chamber, it was circular, its walls lined with ancient conduits that pulsed with faint violet light. At its center stood the device, a core of humming energy, its glow rising and falling like breath. Wires as thick as trees fed into it, their ends vanishing into the planet's crust. Drax's stomach clenched.
Oh.
Even without understanding it fully, he felt its wrongness. His head ached, just looking at it. Then a voice echoed from the shadows. Wondered if you'd come yourselves. The squad snapped into formation, rifles raised. From the far end of the chamber stepped Coral, a Dominion exile dressed in sleek black armor that bore no insignia. Eyes gleamed with cold amusement. How? Poetic, he said. Humans, hunters of monsters, come to stop the thing that finally frightens them. Step away, Drax growled. Coral laughed softly. Why? I already won the moment you chose to care. You burn our convoys, you slaughter our soldiers, but here you hesitate. That hesitation is my victory. He raised one arm, his hand. Hovered over a biopad wired into the core. Don't, Drax snapped. Why not? Coral's smile widened. If I press this, the whisper fires. Everyone in Orbitor fleets, your soldiers' minds gone. Empty shells. If I don't press it, you'll kill me and call it honor. Either way, I win. Because either way, Earth loses itself. The chamber thrummed. The violet glow brightened. Drax's finger tightened on his trigger. His squad spread, covering angles. Sweat slicked his back inside the armor. For the first time since Naraya Prime, wasn't sure which choice was right. Then, a sharp crack. A plasma bolt tore through the chamber, slamming into Coral's shoulder. He cried out, stumbling sideways, his hand jerking away from the pad. Behind him, a figure emerged from the shadows. Cloaked in torn civilian garb, her face pale with fear but her eyes blazing. Minister Virala, a former member of the Dominion's Civilian Council. No more monsters, she said, her voice trembling but firm. She fired again. Coral collapsed, twitching, his blood hissing on the stone floor. The whisper's core dimmed, its hum fading. Silence filled the chamber. Drax lowered his rifle slowly, his breath ragged. He stared at Virala. Why? He asked. She shook, her weapon clattering to the floor. Because we want to live, even if it means surrender. Her words echoed in the chamber like a verdict. The strike team secured the chamber, dismantling the whisper's conduits, locking its core in containment. The weapon was silent, neutralized. Drax stood at its edge, staring into the violet glow as it flickered and died. His voice was low, so much fire. It all could have ended here. Virala looked at him, her face weary. Then don't let it. For a long time he said nothing. Then he turned, motioning his squad. Package it. We're done here. Ours. Later, aboard the Hellstorm, Admiral Solus received the report. The whisper was secured. The Dominion had been spared from their own madness. On the Council of Worlds, the news spread fast. Earth had not destroyed the Dominion's core. It had stopped them from destroying themselves. Some called it weakness. Others called it mercy. But everyone agreed on one thing. Earth now held the most dangerous secret in the galaxy, in the quiet of his quarters. Drax sat in silence, his helmet on the table before him. His reflection stared back, eyes shadowed. He thought of Naraya Prime, of Zyra, of Varkos, of the convoy burning. And now of Sorel, the Dominion child he had saved. He thought of the whisper, and the moment Coral's hand hovered above the pad. War. It wasn't about winning anymore. It was about surviving what came after. And he wasn't sure Earth was surviving itself. On Vera Prime. Dominion civilians whispered of Earth differently now, not only as destroyers, but as saviors who had stopped. The whisper. On neutral worlds, smaller empires debated. Some saw Earth as a threat. Others saw them as the only power strong enough to finally break the Dominion's hold. And in the halls of Luna Prime, the debate raged. Was Earth a conqueror now, or a guardian? One truth spread faster than all others. Earth had the power to end civilizations. And Earth chose to let them live. The galaxy didn't know what to do with that, and Earth had one decision left to make. Would mercy hold, or would fire finish what it started? The stars over Vera Prime burned with tension. Earth's Armada hung at the edge of the Dominion's capital system. Dreadnoughts lined the void, their cannons charged, their engines glowing like suns. Carriers released drone wings that shimmered in formation, waiting for the signal. The U's Reckoner, Earth's newest and deadliest warship, led the line. Its hull black as night, its silhouette like a blade aimed at the planet below. For 3 days, the fleets had faced each other in silence. Dominion warships circled their homeworld, battered but still defiant. Earth's 7th Armada stood ready, merciless, unyielding. One wrong move, and the skies would ignite into a firestorm that could erase civilizations. On the Reckoners, Command Deck Admiral Reina Sola stood tall, her eyes locked on the glowing sphere of Vera Prime. Her voice was steady, cold. Transmit final notice. Vera Prime has 24 hours to surrender. After that, we end this war in fire. The countdown began. Every ship in the 7th Armada carried the same timer across its HUD. Officers checked weapons. Soldiers whispered prayers. Medics prepared for waves of wounded they might never see. Across Earth's colonies, people watched the feeds with held breath. Would Earth destroy the Dominion once and for all? Or would they show mercy and risk being seen as weak? In the War Council chamber aboard the Reckoner, tension rippled like a storm about to break. Generals and admirals leaned over holomaps, lines of blue and red blinking across sectors. "This is the end," one general said. "Strike now. Their cities leave nothing?" Another argued, "If we do this, the Council of Worlds will brand us as monsters. Sanctions, blockades, perhaps even coalition war." Solas listened, silent, her hands clasped behind her back. Her eyes were hard, but inside her chest, something weighed heavy. At the far end of the chamber, Captain Arlen Drax stood, arms crossed. His voice broke the storm. "We don't need to burn them. We already won. The Dominion is broken. Their fleets are scattered, their convoys shattered. We proved our point." One general sneered. "Tell that to the children of Naraya Prime." Drax's jaw tightened. "I remember them every day. That's why I don't want to see more children burn. Not theirs, not ours." The chamber erupted into shouts again. But Solas's eyes stayed on Drax. His words dug deeper than the others realized. "Ours." Before the timer reached 0, the comms unit flickered. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the surface." "Dominion channel, not military." "Open it," Solas ordered. The screen buzzed to life. A woman appeared pale, cloaked, her voice trembling but strong. "This is Minister Varala once. Of the Dominion Civilian Council, I beg you to listen. The High Command is fractured. Lord Commander Zerx prepares to unleash the whisper on you, or on us. It doesn't matter. He would rather erase us all than surrender." Her voice broke. "Please. We cannot stop him alone." Screen cut to static. For a moment, silence crushed the deck. Then Solas turned sharply. "Prep a ground team. I'm going down." Gasps rippled across the officers. "Admiral, that's suicide. I need someone who has been inside their strongholds." Solas cut them off. Her eyes fell on Drax. "That's you, Captain. Gear up. Going to stop the whisper ourselves." Drax nodded once. No hesitation. Understood. The stealth pod sliced into Vera Prime's southern pole, the same coordinates Varala had whispered. Inside, Solas, Drax, and a squad of Hellheimers checked weapons in silence. The hatch blew open. Icy wind howled, carrying the smell of old blood and rust. The prison complex rose ahead, jagged towers half buried in snow and ash. They moved fast. Rifles raised, shadows sliding between collapsed walls. Every corner hummed with danger. The Dominion was waiting. Inside the central chamber, the violet glow of the last whisper pulsed. Stronger now, its core thrumming like a heart ready to burst. And, standing before it was Coral, the exile commander who had sworn to use it. His armor gleamed black, his smile cruel. "You came yourselves," he said softly. "How poetic. You burn our worlds, and still you hesitate here. If I press this pad, your fleets are gone. If I don't, you kill me and you are monsters. Either way, I win." His hand hovered over the trigger. Drax raised his rifle. Not today. Shot cracked. Coral staggered as a plasma bolt punched through his chest. Behind him, Minister Varala lowered a weapon, her face pale but determined. "No more monsters," she whispered. The whisper's glow faded, its pulse stilled. Silence filled the chamber. The whisper was secured, its core dismantled and sealed. But the war wasn't over. Back aboard the Reckoner, the timer ticked down to its last hour. The Dominion's fleets held position, their pride unbroken even as their strength failed. Earth's Armada stood ready, engines burning, cannons aimed. All eyes turned to Solas. Would she give the final order? She stood in silence, staring at the map. Drax stepped beside her. His voice was low. "You light this fire, Admiral, and history remembers us as monsters. You hold it back, and history remembers us as something worse, human. The choice is yours." Her jaw clenched. The weight of centuries pressed on her shoulders. Finally, she raised her hand. "Transmit to all ships. Hold fire." Gasps echoed. Across the deck, its officers froze. Stunned, double quotes, "Signaled Dominion High Command," Solas continued. "Tell them this. Surrender or burn. They have seen both sides of Earth. They know which is worse." The message was sent. Minutes later, the reply came. Dominion fleets powered down. Surrender codes pulsed through the channels. It was over. The Treaty of Naraya was signed weeks later, named for the colony whose massacre had lit the fire. The Dominion was stripped of half its systems, its slave fleets disbanded, its warlords put on trial, but they were alive. Their cities stood, their children still played, and they would remember that Earth had spared them when Earth could have erased them. On Luna Prime, New Geneva's capital square, a monument was built. It was forged from the melted fragments of Naraya Primes. Ruins and shards of Dominion weapons, it bore no names. Only one sentence, written in every galactic tongue. We were hurt, struck back, but we remembered who we were. Crowds gathered beneath it every day. Some cried, some prayed. Some only stared in silence, wondering what Earth would become next. Captain Drax returned to Naraya Prime months later. The colony was rebuilding. Fields grew again, green against the scarred soil. Children laughed in makeshift schools. Jules. Ren, the teacher turned survivor, greeted him with tired eyes and a flask of water. "I heard what you did," Jules said. "You saved a child. You stood down when the fire was too much." "I don't know if it was right," Drax admitted quietly. Jules smiled faintly. "It was human. That's enough." Nearby, Jules's daughter waved at Drax, her small hand bright against the fading sky. For the first time in years, Drax waved back. Admiral Reyna Solas retired soon after the treaty. She refused medals, monuments, or honors. "The only thing worth remembering," she said in her final address, "is restraint." Her last order as admiral was the monument on Luna Prime. Then she disappeared into quiet life. Her name whispered not as a hero, but as the one who chose mercy when fire was easier. In the months that followed, the galaxy spoke Earth's name. Differently, not just in fear, not just in awe, but in uncertainty, because Earth had shown it could destroy civilizations. And then it showed it could let them live. Power, the galaxy learned, wasn't just pulling the trigger. It was being the one who held it steady, silent, while everyone else trembled, and humanity. The species once mocked as weak and reckless had become the galaxy's greatest question.